if you can sell something, and I don't mean like in the smarmy kind of used car salesperson thing, but if you can sell a vision, if you can sell a vision of the future that you have, a product, a service, etc., it is, to me, the equivalent of being a coder, right? If you're a coder, people, there are coders in this room, like, engineers in this room, you hold a lot of power if you're an engineer, because you can build things, and people need to come to you to get things done. But by the same token, like, if you're an incredible salesperson, and when I say sales, like, I also include in that a form of marketing, because sales is hand-to-hand combat, coming to you. I'm trying to sell you something, but marketing is you're the billboard. So if you can, it could also be in the form of, I'm figuring out by studying other people, content marketing, where I don't have to spend anything to get people to come to me. But there is this thing of closing. So you can get people's attention, but can you close them on something? And so if you can sell, it's almost like you can do, like your company can be anything. And again, I don't mean it in like an unethical way or like a manipulative way. I mean just, you have to sell to future employees, the vision. You have to sell to your partnership, the vendors that you're working with, and to your customers. And so it's just such a strong skill to develop. And here's the thing, a lot of times when we talk about stuff in these rooms, it's like, when I say that, even in the coder part, like someone's like, oh, well, I am not that. Do you understand you can be? Yeah. It's actually helped me so much in my business relationship with Mark Cuban, that he says all the time, publicly, always be selling. It's helped me because then I don't have this sort of like, oh, I can't ask him that, or I can't say that to him. He's the one who's saying, I want all my portfolio companies to always be selling. That is he was a salesman. That's how he made his billions, was getting to that point. And so he wasn't beholden to someone else to try to sell his vision. So I just think it's a really, really important skill to have or develop.
So my question to you is, how do you address the trust factor in terms of trusting yourself, trusting your team, trusting the people around you? How do you handle that part?
Have a high tolerance for risk. And so, I mean, it's not like it's been the whole time, but I have really developed like, what's going to happen is going to happen. In fact, it's hard for me to do contracts, because I'm like, if this person comes back and does me wrong, which I've kind of had that happen before, that's such a bigger disappointment in our life and our relationship than the actual money part of it. And so, but it's obviously, you need to sign contracts and you need to do that. For me, like, the realistic part of it is just sort of like, yeah, some of these are going to work out and some of them are not. I am a very controlling person and have been in the past, and so you try to control everything, but you can't control that. It's like, if I look back on it, and many of us have had this, the people that I thought would be in my life forever, who are like family, some of them have just disappeared. And the people I didn't know much about, some of them have just shown out so much that it's like, oh, I'm so glad I just waited to see that, And then you think about yourself, you're like, have I been good to that person? There's like a lot of information in history. And then for myself, the trust I have, I'd like to think about like building instinct. Is, in order to build instinct, you have to fail at it. You have to be wrong about people and things and decisions. And I compare it to learning to ride a skateboard, which I have never done, by the way. But I've seen people on videos fall a lot. And you have to develop it, because they get right back up and they go, and then they're doing it for the most part, right? You have to. So many of us are like, we beat ourselves up because this relationship didn't work out, or this person did me wrong and I didn't see that coming, or I had a fork in the road, I chose the wrong path and it came back to bite me. But if we're being honest, it's like, oh, hopefully you learned from that, and then you built your instincts just a little bit better, a little bit better. Like, they talk about building a skill 1% at a time. Like, every time you do something, can you be 1% better? And over time, that's like scale so much. So you can build that. So for myself, I trust my instincts. I also have learned through trial and error and just experience that a lot of the stuff that I think about and I create is well before its time. And so if I were just to like leave it to other people to say yay or nay to, they're going to say no each and every time because they can't see it. And so once I get there, I say like, you're crazy until you're a genius, right? There's so much that I talk about today that I get so much love for that I was saying 10 years ago, and people are like, crazy. That can't happen, And so it's really like if you believe in something and you have a higher tolerance for risk, or give yourself a higher tolerance for risk, and then on top of that, you're okay with failure, quote unquote, you have so much control then. I also have a high tolerance for being wrong in public. So that it's like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for it because if I'm wrong, I'm going to own it. And I'm grown and I don't care if I look silly or here we go, let's do it. Because I'm taking bold action and most of the people criticizing you could never. I'm real bullish on you not raising. That's not to say that, because I love angel investors, that's not to say that you have an arrangement with some angel investors that you appreciate and vice versa, and they get a little piece of the pie that some VC should have had, but they're not getting it. I mean, the bigger raises. If I can encourage many of you not to try to raise, because what you can do both. But when you let's say you raise 100,000 or 500,000 or even $1 million, especially early days, if you're able to, it's hard to do, it takes years, but if you're able to, you also gave away that much of your company. And the money, guess what? The money goes away. There's an end to the money. There's not an end to that person owning what you have until there's some sort of exchange. So what I say is, if you can go through the pain, that is something, again, that you can control. Like, okay, I can control that risk. I control that, oh, it's going to take twice as long. Okay, I can do that. But you own more of it. It's just a different ballgame. And then maybe along the way, because you have raised the value of your company, and these are specific types of companies, you say, okay, yeah, you can come in. You can be a part of it now, but it's a lot more expensive for you. Like, you can have 5% of my company, but it's going to be a lot more for you than it was the day that I came in with nothing, thinking I had nothing, although I had so much in my control. And I'm just thinking, I just need that 6 figures in my bank account. Do you understand? I will understand. I mean, usually they say 100% of nothing or 5% of, but in this case, it's more like, actually, like if I had $1 million business a year, and I was getting some portion of that, and I was having fun, and I was doing my thing, and I was growing a little bit each year, but I owned most of it or gave 10% of it to some angel investor friends of mine, what would that look like versus I had the same year, and I thought it was a great year, but the VC that I worked out that deal with thinks it's terrible because they have their metrics they have to reach. I remember talking to Josh Koppelman a couple weeks ago when I was in Philadelphia. He's on the Midas list, which means he's a very, very successful VC. Good friend. He's been very helpful, incredibly helpful to me. But he was talking about an 8x return on something as if it were, he's like, yeah, it was kind of disappointing. It was 8x return. And he was being real. Like, Josh is being real. He's a real straight shooter. But he was like, yeah, that's kind of it. He also said, it's going to take you like 20 years from the time you started to really start to see the gains. And I loved that he said that because he's considered one of the most successful VCs in the world. And he's saying the people breathing down your neck at year 8 need to take a seat, right? But you have to think about that. If a VC has raised their money from someone else, and that someone else is a bank or an endowment, which is a whole nother topic we should talk about, they're going to be breathing down your neck. So if some of us, we don't all have to, like if you're listening to this, you're like, cute, but I'm still going to do that, go for it. But if some of us are like, what would happen if I just took the next year and just doubled down on the company and just doubled down on my sales skills and I put together a small team or a contracted team or somebody to play off of, I wonder what that would look like. Because I am really tired of us having to go out and beg these same people for money when they don't deserve us. Woo.